What is the best UF asterisk 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 ED with the wrong person moment you've seen? Back in the 1980s, I took a commercial tour in Africa. A local cop in an obscure town decided that accusing a group of American tourists of illegally photographing a police station would be a good way to ingratiate himself with the local commandant. So he arrested us and hauled us off to see the commandant, who was not amused. To save face, he agreed to let us go after we swore we wouldn't sell pictures of the police station to American newspapers. It didn't hurt that we on the tour leader's advice were loudly demanding that he call the American ambassador. We learned later that things did not go well for the local cop. The tour organizer was a European who was best friends with a man considered a national hero in that country. The organizer had contracted with a local company to do the logistics for the tour. The local company was owned by National Hero's brother. Local guide made a call. National Hero made a call. Commandant understood which side his bread was buttered on. This happened to me. In primary school, there was this one boy who acted like he was really tough and strong. One day he was picking on me. I was really quiet and depressed at this point in my life, so I was an easy target for bullying. I never told teachers, and I never said anything back. It never got physical until one day, that boy decided he wanted to prove he was strong. He came up to me and started shouldering me. Others were chanting fight at us. This is where it gets funny. He punched my stomach, so I grabbed his arm and twisted it around his back. I grabbed his other arm and dug my nails into his hand. I literally threw him on the ground into a group of wooden tree stumps used as seats for the younger kids. Now everyone was staring in my direction. The boy was on the floor wailing like a baby, and even the strongest kids in the class ran away, not wanting me to do the same to them. I was never bullied again. This is low key, but I enjoyed it. My first week at a white collar job, my first such job, and we were in the middle of a department wide meeting, about 17 coworkers and supervisors all together. The person leading the meeting asks a question of no one in particular, and several of us answer. My answer differed from the rest. One guy turns to me and says, "Let's leave these questions to the people who actually have master's degree, shall we?" I looked at him and said, "I have master's degree." The room went silent, except for one guy who loudly oohed. I had given the correct answer to top it off. "Let's leave these questions to the people who actually have master's degree, shall we?" That's a see you outside after work sort of comment. He turned out to be a really great guy. I suppose he was just having an off day. Maybe he is just nice to people who have a master degree. My uncle told me this story just a few nights ago. The scene: early 1950s country Australia. My mother, who would have been about 12 at the time and recently arrived here from Holland via Indonesia after WW2, came home from school in tears with multiple welts on the back of her legs. Apparently the nun that was teaching her English had become frustrated with her accent and took to her with a cane. Several of the blows had drawn blood. My grandfather, a man who was gentle but also tough as nails and who had survived 5 years in a Japanese POW camp during the war, as had my mother and grandmother, got into the truck and left a rooster tail of dust as he tore down the road heading for the school. They didn't find out the details of what occurred at the school or what he said to the principal, but my mother was never again put in any class with a nun teaching and never subjected to any kind or corporal punishment again. Was in a Canadian bar for and I hit on some chick and she was digging me, but the guy that thought she was there with him wasn't enjoying the idea she was going home with me. He told me to f off and she told me he was just obsessed with her and they were nothing. He warned me I was f-king with the wrong guy while wearing a tap out tee. Anyways, her and I were dancing and then the dude come out of nowhere and tries to king hit me. I was holding her at the time and the dude ended up knocking her out in my arms. Security saw the whole thing and jumped the guy. I just walked off back to the hotel alone. I thought this was gonna turn into an Arthur story, but I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, I was hoping the last line said. I ended up grabbing a Dorito taco from Taco Bell. Then I got home and my dad beat me with a pair of jumper cables. Well, did you get a number beforehand? It was like a shopping center like thing, a popular one in England called Trafford Centre. There were these two very built up men, obviously bodybuilders, getting quite heated and looking like they were about to throw hands. A small crowd had gathered around. One of them threw a punch, and the other one returned with a revenge blow. Security came and sought, if hesitated, as the size of these men was triple of the biggest security guard they had. This is when some old woman, maybe 80 early 90s, stepped between them and scolded them. It's not really a foo-ed with the wrong person moment, but you're not going to punch a little old woman. Not around witnesses, anyway. I've heard of people beating up old people as part of a gang initiation thing, or maybe just because it makes them feel tough, though. Oh wow, I'm so tough I can beat up someone who gets bruised from a flick. Back in high school, there was this family, more like a clan, that had 7 kids that were all of high school age. They were social outcasts, and someone said some truly terrible things to the youngest sister of the group. The second the other 6 siblings heard about it, they went to war. The kid who insulted the youngest sister got his nose broken in 2 places. His friends all wound up getting the snot kicked out of them for trying to defend him. Afterwards was chaos. Years of being ragged on as a family finally made them all break, and they went on a manhunt of every kid that ever crossed them. Numerous brawls broke out, and more than one teacher who tried to break them all up wound up getting injured in the process. It all stopped once the local police department was called in, and several arrests were made. At the end of the day, 5 out of the 7 were suspended, and 1 was expelled. 7th grade science. Bully, almost more of a bully's henchman, said something about a quiet kid's mother. Quiet kid's mom was dead. Quiet kid also apparently studied boxing. Who knew? What did you say about my mom? Wham, what did you say about my mom? Wham. Bully henchman was so shocked he did nothing, and took the 2 straight punches to his face. I don't think he got in trouble. Happened before the teacher came in. And that young boy grew up to become Batman. Or a airplane mechanic. He was the only kid I recall knowing exactly what he wanted to be when he was young. He knew all about planes, so I imagine that's what he's been doing for the last 2 decades. I should see if he's on Facebook. Where's your mom, Potter? Is she dead? Is she dead? That henchman's name was Grover Dill. Once I was in my history class, and we had a sub. Aside from that, it was a pretty normal day. The whole class knows that I'm a nerd. That was proven the teacher incorrect multiple times. So somehow in class, the teacher said that Vatican City was part of Italy or not a country. This is incorrect. I raised my hand and the whole class knew what was coming. The teacher called on me, and I said that Vatican City was not a country. The sub replied saying that it was. We had a quick debate, and he was still not believing it. He said he'd look it up and he did. He didn't say anything afterward, so I later I asked, hey, so is it a country? And he said he looked it up, and it was not. I then went on my phone, googled it and airplay the correct answer to the speaker, and only got one lunch decision. I finally have a place to put this. So, there was a girl in my school who ended up bullying me, like real bullying, for 2-3 years. She and I are also on the same swim team, so when it reached a fever pitch I ended up telling our coach. He sat us down, and we Dr. Phil'd it. As I unloaded all the things she did to me, she had no way to deny it. She broke down, and began crying, and kinda sitting in the fetal position. And our coach, who is the nicest person ever, dropped the big one. He said he was disappointed in her. That was harsh for him. Walking out of the back room smiling, while she was red in the face and kinda still crying in front of her friends. Some pretty good stuff. Although I kinda did want to see more repercussions. Did she stop bullying after that? Dave, a customer politely inquiring about the status of his Avenger PlayStation 3 controller order, and Paul Cristoforo of Ocean Marketing, the PR lead for the product exchange emails. The rep for Ocean Marketing is a ranting lunatic and explains that they have a booth at PAX East that year and don't need to have good customer support. Mike Krahulik, the writer of Penny Arcade and owner of PAX East, gets involved, and the ranting lunatic turns on him, apparently not knowing who he is. I've read this article before, but I'm gonna read it again right now because delicious schadenfreude. I just read that. Holy cow, talk about going down in flames. I website as on the internet still makes me laugh 8 years later. This is the best thing I've read all day. Happened on my behalf. I went to my community college for my BTEC, that's a bit like an associate's degree, and there were a few mature students in my class. There was one guy named Dave. Dave was the kind of guy that was so big he loomed. He was also a super nice guy, and I helped him out with his coursework because he was trying to get into the ad industry. Well, at the time I was this skinny runt of a 17-year-old, and one day I'm minding my own business and some other student starts trying to push me around. All of a sudden a shadow appears between the two of us. Dave just taps him on the shoulder. "No, you don't touch him. He's my friend. You understand?" Never had any trouble again. Gotta say, every skinny nerd needs a friend like Dave. So my mom's cousin MC back, before he became a peaceful dude, and found Zen was in the passenger seat of his then girlfriend's car, driving on the highway, when this guy SG was riding her bumper. Then the guy bumped into the car, and flipped him off or something, so MC threw a can or something through his closed window, and flipped him off too, which set off the SG. SG pulled over, and said, "You made the worst mistake of your life." Meanwhile he's this scrawny white dude with long blonde hair and MC is this giant muscular man. MC responded with "No, you did," then grabbed his hair, pulled him close and headbutted SG until he bled. After that he got in the car and left the guy on the side of the highway. This is extremely petty, but here goes. I was playing a popular online FPS shooter game, and these two randoms who knew each other tried to attack me when I was picking up loot that was rightfully mine. I'd summoned it. Having barely survived, I'll let them have it. Soon after, I got a chance, got one of them into a car and drove away before the other could get in. Then once it was a 1v1, I finished him off, tracked the other one down, and kept giving his position away until the enemy finished him off. Then, added them a few days later, after they forgot who I was, and ruined their next game as well. If you aren't willing to be a team player, don't play squads. Girl at school found out she was pregnant, tried to talk to her boyfriend about their future and what to do. He flipped out, didn't want to deal with it, and pushed her down the stairs. Within 24 hours he'd been beaten up 3 times by 3 different people. He spent the rest of the day hiding and recovering, or it most certainly would have been more, and had to be escorted by armed security to a bus station for transit to another state. Hitting a pregnant girl is pretty much free license for everyone to beat you down, and a lot of people, including ones that aren't normally violent, will happily get in on that.